The announcement is made, the room applauds, and two people hear the same words. You have been chosen. Greater responsibility is now yours. Both have worked diligently. Both possess real ability. Both accept the promotion with pleasure. Outwardly, there is almost nothing to distinguish them. Yet one receives the advancement with gratitude. The opportunity feels like a gift and a trust. More people to serve, more difficult decisions to make, more good work to attempt. The other receives it as a verdict. At last, the promotion proves what he has long hoped others would admit, that he is more capable, more important, more worthy than those who were not chosen. The position is identical. The salary may be identical. Even the congratulatory smile may be identical. But the two successes are serving two different loves. This is why the promotion itself is not the moral event. Achievement has no single moral meaning apart from the desire that receives it. Success may become stewardship, or it may become self-worship. It may enlarge a person's gratitude and responsibility, or it may be recruited as evidence in a private case for superiority. Many Christians sense this danger and then make a second mistake. They begin to distrust ambition itself. They wonder whether humility requires them to conceal their talent, weaken their effort, refuse leadership, or feel guilty about advancement. But there is nothing virtuous in careless work, neglected ability, or the refusal of a responsibility one is equipped to carry. Skill can be cultivated, contribution can be enjoyed. Growth, provision, leadership, and meaningful achievement can all be received with honest delight. The danger begins when achievement is commanded to answer a question it cannot answer. What am I worth compared with everyone else? So the governing question is not whether you should pursue excellence, but whether excellence has quietly become a contest for identity. Can you do worthwhile work without demanding that it place you above another person? Can you welcome success as a gift without turning it into a crown? That is the distinction we must uncover. The difference between enjoying work because it is good and craving recognition because it makes us appear greater. We will also ask where healthy ambition crosses into pride, how that pride reveals itself, and whether humility truly threatens excellence. If you value Christian reflections in which faith and reason examine the ordinary motives beneath ordinary choices, subscribe and continue with us. But first, consider your present ambition honestly. Are you seeking greater faithfulness or merely greater rank? And what, precisely, separates delight in excellent work from delight in standing above someone else? Begin, then, with what each person enjoys. Healthy ambition takes pleasure in ability being cultivated, responsibility being met, value being created, and worthy work being done well. It does not apologize for competence. It may desire a better result, a larger opportunity, or a more demanding responsibility, because there are forms of service that require greater skill, discipline, and influence. Such ambition can be vigorous without becoming vain. It asks, have I done justice to the work entrusted to me? Pride asks a different question. It is not merely pleased that something good has been accomplished. It wants the accomplishment to establish a favorable distance between oneself and others. It is a comparative appetite. Goodness alone cannot satisfy it, because it requires someone else to possess less honor, less influence, or less success. Excellence asks whether the work is good. Pride asks whether the work has placed me above you. Consider two workers who deliver excellent presentations. Both prepare carefully, both speak clearly, both help their listeners understand a difficult idea. The first leaves satisfied because confusion has given way to clarity and the work achieved its purpose. The second may notice the same result, yet his deepest pleasure comes from seeing that a rival appeared less capable. One delights in what was made clear, the other chiefly delights in who was made small. The outward achievement is equal, but the inward enjoyment reveals two different ends. This does not mean that every comparison is corrupt. Comparison can be useful for measurement. We learn by observing stronger work, testing our present ability, and recognizing where improvement is needed. A standard may expose carelessness or awaken discipline, but a measuring instrument becomes a moral danger when we ask it to tell us who deserves greater worth. Then, another person's excellence no longer instructs us. It threatens us. Their success feels like our reduction, and their praise seems to have been taken from a limited store that ought to have belonged to us. Here, then, is a test worth carrying into ordinary work. If no one were impressed and no rival were defeated, would this task still seem worth doing? Would you still care that the reasoning was sound, the design useful, the decision just, the promise kept, or the craft improved? If the answer is yes, healthy ambition is still breathing. If the work becomes nearly meaningless once admiration is removed, status hunger may have taken possession of it. The purpose of this question is not to make you indifferent to results. Results matter because work affects real people, fulfills real duties, and carries real consequences. Nor must you pretend that encouragement, promotion, or public recognition is unpleasant. The freedom being sought is more exacting. To welcome a good result without demanding that it certify your importance. To pursue distinction in the work without needing superiority over the worker beside you. That distinction brings relief, because humility does not require the death of aspiration. It requires aspiration to love the right object. Yet, comparative desire has a deeper cruelty. Once success must prove relative importance, no achievement can remain sufficient for long. Its satisfaction depends upon where everyone else stands, and that means rest is always vulnerable to the next person who rises. Consider what happens after the desired achievement arrives. A person aspires to a certain position, labors for it, and finally obtains it. For a moment, satisfaction seems possible. Then attention moves outward. Who has advanced further? Who earns more? Whose work is mentioned more often? Who reached the same position sooner? The achievement has not changed, yet its meaning has been reduced by the discovery that another person possesses something greater. Gratitude can stop at the good received. It can say, "This opportunity is good, and I am thankful for it." Pride cannot stop there. It must add another question, but is my opportunity better than theirs? Gratitude receives, pride calculates. Gratitude notices the gift itself, while pride keeps looking sideways to determine whether the gift establishes sufficient distinction. Thus, every colleague becomes an instrument of measurement, and every success carries an expiration date. This is rather like climbing a ladder that lengthens whenever another climber comes into view. You reach the rung that once appeared highest, only to discover someone above you, so you climb again. Yet even if you pass that person, another appears, and the place of rest moves upward once more. The exhaustion does not arise merely because the climb is difficult. It arises because the destination is controlled by the changing position of everyone else. Status hunger, therefore, survives both defeat and victory. When the comparison is lost, it produces envy. Another person possesses the recognition that seems necessary to our peace. When the comparison is won, it produces anxiety. The advantage must now be guarded against anyone who may overtake us. Failure says, "I am diminished because they are ahead." Success says, "I may be diminished if they catch me." One condition aches with resentment, the other trembles with possible displacement. Neither condition permits durable rest. This helps explain why another person's praise may trouble us far beyond its practical consequences. Their advancement may not reduce our income, remove our responsibility, or impair the quality of anything we have accomplished. Yet we feel injured because attention has turned toward them. Likewise, being ignored may hurt not simply because fair acknowledgement is desirable, but because invisibility seems to threaten our significance. The pain reveals that recognition was carrying a burden greater than encouragement. It was being asked to confirm who we are. We must distinguish this from ordinary disappointment. It is natural to feel sadness when diligent work is overlooked, when a hoped-for opportunity is lost, or when recognition is distributed unjustly. Humility does not require emotional numbness, nor does it forbid us from addressing genuine unfairness. The deeper wound appears when another person's good is experienced as a subtraction from our own worth, when their progress feels like our disappearance, even though nothing entrusted to us has been taken away. The person who works chiefly for rank cannot finally rest, because rank exists only while everyone else remains in view. And this great insecurity seldom announces itself with grand declarations. It appears in smaller movements of the heart. The sudden irritation when a colleague is commended, the urge to reclaim credit, the defensiveness that follows correction, the private relief when a rival falters. These reactions may seem minor, but they tell the truth about what our ambition has been asked to secure. We must therefore look more closely at the small offenses that provoke us, for pride often reveals its deepest loyalties through the injuries it cannot bear. Bring the question, then, into the meeting where a successful project is discussed and the praise is shared unevenly. You contributed real labor. Perhaps you carried more of the burden than anyone knows. Yet, another person receives most of the acknowledgement. Can you still rejoice that the work succeeded, that the team benefited, and that something useful was accomplished? Or does the achievement suddenly taste bitter because your name was not attached to it prominently enough? The resentment may expose what the work itself concealed. You were willing to collaborate, provided collaboration did not obscure your importance. Consider correction, especially when it comes from someone you regard as less experienced, less capable, or lower in authority. Do you examine the criticism for truth, or reject it because accepting it would disturb the rank you have assigned yourself? Excellence wants errors discovered because it desires better work. Pride wants errors hidden because it fears appearing less impressive. The same correction may therefore be received either as assistance or as an insult. What threatens excellence is the possibility that the work remains poor. What threatens pride is the possibility that another person sees what we failed to see. Then, consider the person whose success most troubles you. Can you sincerely desire that person's good when no advantage will return to you, when their advancement will not create an opening, improve your reputation, or allow you to appear generous? It is easy to congratulate a rival while secretly hoping the success will be brief. It is harder and far more revealing to wish that the good in their work may flourish, even when their flourishing places them more fully in view. There is also the test of invisibility. Suppose an important task must be completed, but no one will know who completed it. No announcement will be made, no gratitude expressed, no future opportunity secured. Would you still perform it carefully? Hidden work reveals whether faithfulness itself is precious to us, or whether careful labor was merely the price we paid for being noticed. Finally, listen to the private narration that follows success. Does the mind rehearse gratitude, responsibility, and the help received from others? Or does it quietly assemble a catalogue of supposed inferiority, why others could not have done what you did, why their praise is excessive, why your recognition remains insufficient? Pride may remain courteous in public while conducting these comparisons in secret. This is the uncomfortable reversal. Pride is often clearest, not in what we openly claim, but in what we resent. Our stated motives may be noble and often partly true, but resentment identifies the good we believed we were owed. Lost credit, unwelcome correction, another person's advancement, and unnoticed labor press upon the hidden object of ambition until it speaks. Yet an ambitious listener may now object. If we surrender rivalry, recognition, and the desire to prove ourselves, what will remain to drive excellent work? Perhaps comparison is unpleasant, but necessary. Perhaps humility sounds admirable only because someone else is still willing to compete, lead, achieve, and bear responsibility. Must pride be abandoned at the cost of becoming passive, timid, or mediocre? The objection deserves a fair answer. Much difficult work is begun under the pressure of competition. People study because they wish to excel, prepare because they wish to be chosen, and endure discomfort because they hope to advance. Remove the desire to win, impress, or prove oneself, and perhaps the energy disappears with it. If no one wishes to stand above the rest, who will attempt what is demanding, uncertain, or costly? But this fear depends upon a false choice. It assumes that a person must be driven either by pride or by nothing. Christian humility does not command the capable person to become careless. It does not excuse poor preparation, conceal useful ability, decline a rightful responsibility, or pretend that inferior work is spiritually safer. Negligence is not humility merely because it produces no applause. Timidity does not become virtuous merely because it avoids distinction. Humility does not ask a gifted person to become less capable. It asks that person to stop using capability as a claim to superiority. A gift may be exercised vigorously without becoming a verdict upon the worth of the one who possesses it. You may train the mind, strengthen the craft, accept difficult responsibility, and pursue a demanding standard. The question is whether ability is being faithfully used or secretly worshipped. Consider a musician performing a difficult composition. The musician must practice with discipline, listen with care, and bring every faculty to the task. Yet the performance would be ruined if, in the middle of every measure, the musician ceased attending to the music in order to admire the performer. Pride creates precisely this interruption. It continually turns attention away from the thing being done and back toward the self doing it. Humility restores concentration. It permits the person to love the truth of the work more than the spectacle of personal importance. Competition itself need not be denied. There are occasions when several qualified people seek one position, when one proposal must be selected, or when performance must be judged. Competition may be a condition of selection without becoming the meaning of one's life. You may strive honestly to be chosen, while refusing to believe that being chosen makes you more valuable, or that another person's success makes you less so. Indeed, freedom from pride may strengthen excellence. The person who no longer needs to defend an image can receive correction sooner. He can collaborate without guarding every contribution, remain patient through slow improvement, and risk honest failure without treating it as personal annihilation. He can admit ignorance, revise weak work, learn from a stronger rival, and attempt something difficult because the task is worth attempting, not merely because success will decorate the self. This is not ambition diminished, but ambition relieved of self-justification. Its energy may come from gratitude for ability, responsibility toward those affected by the work, delight in increasing competence, and the desire to be useful. Such motives are quieter than vanity, but they are not weaker. They can endure when applause fades and comparison turns unfavorable. The distinction must now be carried into ordinary pressures, where motives rarely remain pure: employment, enterprise, leadership, and study. There we will see whether advancement enlarges faithful responsibility or merely enlarges the importance we assign ourselves. Begin in the office, where advancement is both desirable and dangerous. An employee may pursue promotion because the larger role requires judgment, steadiness, and the willingness to carry burdens that presently belong to someone else. Yet the same pursuit may conceal a private rivalry. The title is wanted not chiefly for the work it permits, but for the difference it establishes. The temptation here is credit. The decisive question is not simply, do I want the position, but if I receive it, whose good will become more fully my responsibility? The entrepreneur meets ambition in another form: to create something useful, sustain it through difficulty, provide dependable value, and preserve it from careless growth may require remarkable courage. But enterprise can quietly become a search for public validation. Growth must then be visible, praise must be frequent, and every success must testify that the founder is exceptional. The venture ceases to be something entrusted to the person and becomes something displayed about the person. Its distinct temptation is applause. Usefulness is no longer enough unless usefulness attracts admiration. In the classroom, ambition takes the form of disciplined mastery. The serious student practices what is difficult, submits to standards, and refuses the comfort of shallow understanding. Grades may honestly indicate progress or expose neglected work. But when rank becomes identity, classmates cease to be fellow learners and become threats. Another student's insight feels like one's own humiliation. Another's high mark seems to reduce the meaning of one's effort. The temptation here is comparative position. Learning is displaced by the need to be seen as the learner who stands above the rest. Then there is the leader's chair, where pride may wear the respectable appearance of responsibility. A faithful leader develops judgment in others, shares authority wisely, and prepares capable people to carry the work without constant dependence. A proud leader may speak of high standards while quietly ensuring that no one becomes sufficiently confident, informed, or trusted to proceed without him. He remains necessary by keeping others small. The temptation here is control. Indispensability feels like evidence of importance, though it may actually reveal a failure to cultivate those entrusted to one's care. Thus, the comparative appetite changes its clothing according to the room. In the office, it reaches for credit. In the venture, validation. In the classroom, rank. In leadership, control. None of these settings makes ambition corrupt by itself. Each contains genuine duties, demanding standards, and worthy forms of achievement. The moral question is whether increased opportunity makes us more attentive to those duties or merely more impressed with ourselves. Return, then, to the two promotions with which we began. The new role does not suddenly create either gratitude or superiority. It magnifies habits already being formed. One person enters it, asking what greater faithfulness now requires. The other enters asking what greater importance has finally been confirmed. Promotion enlarges service only when the heart has learned to receive recognition without requiring recognition to define it. But insight alone does not retrain a practiced desire. If pride has learned to seek credit, applause, rank, and control, how can ambition be taught repeatedly, concretely to choose another object? We must now turn from recognizing the temptation to forming habits strong enough to answer it. Begin, then, before the work begins. The first practice is to name the good of the task before naming its reward. Ask whom this labor may serve, what problem it should solve, what promise it must keep, and what excellence will require. This does not forbid hope for advancement or acknowledgement. It simply establishes the proper order. The work has a purpose before it has an audience, and ambition is safest when attention is first given to that purpose. The second practice is to accept one useful correction without immediate self-defense. When criticism comes, resist the instinct to explain yourself before you have understood it. Ask first, is any part of this true? Then ask what action the truth requires. You may later correct a misunderstanding or reject an unfair judgment, but do not use unfairness in one part to escape truth in another. This practice loosens the bond between being mistaken and feeling personally diminished. The third practice is to give exact credit. General praise can conceal the desire to appear generous while remaining central. Exact credit names what another person actually contributed, the question that clarified the decision, the careful preparation that prevented failure, the patience that sustained the work. Then, stop. Do not attach a final sentence whose hidden purpose is to restore your prominence. Truthful acknowledgement opposes pride because it permits another person's good to remain fully visible. The fourth practice is to choose some hidden work. Regularly do something valuable that is unlikely to bring recognition, and do it with the same care you would bring to visible work. Let usefulness, for once, be sufficient. Hidden faithfulness is not a performance of secret virtue, nor should it become a private reason to admire yourself. It is a test. Can you still desire the good when the reward of being associated with it has been removed? The fifth practice is to bless a rival without pretending rivalry is painless. You need not deny disappointment, suppress grief, or manufacture warm feelings, but you can speak truthfully about what is good in the other person's work. You can refuse the inward fantasies in which their achievement collapses and your importance is restored. Honest goodwill does not require you to cease striving. It requires you to stop wishing that another must become smaller before you can be at peace. The sixth practice is to review desire after both success and failure. At the end of an important effort, ask what your reactions have revealed. What awakened gratitude? What produced resentment? Why did one person's praise bring relief, while another's produced fear? Did disappointment renew your purpose, or merely wound the image you hoped to maintain? Such review is not endless suspicion of every pleasure. It is an honest examination of where attention traveled when events pressed upon the heart. These 6 practices form a simple rule of work. Name the good, receive correction, give exact credit, choose hidden faithfulness, bless the rival, and review desire. Their simplicity should not be mistaken for ease. Each interrupts a habit pride has rehearsed for years. Together they move attention away from self-display and toward truth, gratitude, shared contribution, useful labor, and another person's good. Yet these practices do not purchase humility, nor do they make mixed motives instantly pure. Indeed, they may reveal how impure those motives remain. Even discipline can become another achievement displayed before the self, evidence that one is unusually humble, generous, or spiritually mature. The practices are not a new method for proving our worth. They expose disordered desire and train attention toward faithfulness, but they cannot give the heart a secure identity. For that, ambition must receive what technique cannot supply, grace, and the grateful dependence by which every ability, opportunity, and good result is received as gift rather than claimed as self-created glory. This is why humility cannot be secured by watching ourselves more anxiously. The person who once ranked himself by promotion may begin ranking himself by modesty. He performs hidden work, gives generous credit, receives correction calmly, and then quietly compares his virtue with those who do not. Pride has not departed. It has merely selected more respectable evidence. Even the refusal of applause can become a reason for inward applause. Grace answers a deeper problem. We have been living as though the soul were permanently on trial, with every achievement called forward to testify that we deserve importance. Failure becomes damaging evidence. Another person's excellence weakens our case, and success must be presented again because yesterday's verdict never remained secure. But grace ends this proceeding. Worth is no longer a sentence we must obtain through performance. The work is released from the impossible burden of proving the worker. This changes the grammar of ambition. Instead of saying, "Here is what I made of myself," we learn to say, "Here is what I was given to cultivate." Ability is real, but it was not summoned from nothing by our own command. Opportunity may be pursued with courage, yet countless conditions made pursuit possible. Good results may require discipline, sacrifice, and skill, yet none of these makes us the ultimate author of everything good. What has been entrusted may be developed vigorously and returned faithfully, without being converted into a monument to the self. Gratitude, therefore, is not self-contempt. It does not require the capable person to deny capability, the diligent person to call diligence laziness, or the successful person to describe every success as accidental. False modesty remains occupied with appearance. Gratitude can speak plainly. This ability is strong. This work was done well. This opportunity is valuable. But it adds the truth pride omits. I am a recipient before I am an achiever, and what I possess places me under responsibility rather than above other people. This security also makes confession possible. When pride is discovered in our motives, we need not conceal it, decorate it, or punish ourselves theatrically for possessing it. If identity depends upon innocence, exposure feels like destruction. If identity is received through grace, exposure becomes an invitation to honesty and repair. We can admit that we withheld credit, resisted correction, envied another's praise, or used service to admire ourselves. Confession no longer destroys the person, it destroys the pretense that the person must be self-made and self-justifying. Dependence upon God also changes how we see another person's gifts. Their intelligence, courage, influence, or craftsmanship need not be interpreted as something stolen from us. Gifts are not distributed to provide a ranking of souls. They create varied responsibilities, varied opportunities for service, and varied occasions for gratitude. To rejoice in another's excellence is therefore not to consent to our own diminishment. It is to recognize goodness without demanding possession of it. Grace does not make effort unnecessary. It makes effort honest. We still practice, compete, build, lead, study, and accept difficult assignments. But we are no longer required to turn every outcome into a declaration about our value. We may labor intensely while depending gratefully, succeed without self-worship, fail without self-erasure, and discover pride without despair. Then ambition is finally free for a better question. If work is no longer occupied with proving who we are, what might it accomplish for those entrusted to our care? What becomes of advancement when greater opportunity is received, not as a certificate of importance, but as a summons to become more useful, more responsible, and more ready to serve? Mature ambition begins here, not with the wish to be admired, but with the willingness to develop one's powers for responsibilities larger than comfort, vanity, or private gain. It asks us to become capable enough to carry what love, duty, and opportunity may place before us. Such ambition does not shrink from difficulty, it prepares for it. It accepts that greater usefulness may require deeper knowledge, steadier judgment, stronger discipline, and the courage to answer for consequences that could once be left to someone else. Advancement may therefore be welcomed, not merely tolerated as a spiritual hazard. Greater authority may enable you to protect people who were previously beyond your reach. Greater skill may help you solve a problem that goodwill alone could not solve. Greater resources may allow you to provide, build, teach, repair, or cultivate on a wider scale. The desire for increased capacity is not necessarily pride. It becomes pride when the good made possible by that capacity matters less than the importance attached to possessing it. Nor does service require you to refuse compensation, influence, leadership, or public recognition. Payment may rightly accompany valuable labor. Influence may be necessary to accomplish what private effort cannot. Leadership may be a duty rather than an indulgence, and recognition may honestly identify work done well. The danger lies not in receiving these things, but in requiring them to become objects of devotion, asking salary to measure dignity, authority to establish superiority, or applause to silence every doubt about worth. When an opportunity appears, apply a threefold test. Ask first, what good becomes possible if I accept this? Ask next, what responsibility becomes mine? Then ask, with equal honesty, what temptation will accompany this role? The first question guards against empty advancement. The second prevents privilege from being separated from duty. The third remembers that every enlarged capacity also enlarges the places where vanity, control, fear, and self-protection may enter. This is the freedom grace gives to purposeful work. You may pursue a difficult goal wholeheartedly without gripping its rewards, as though your life depended upon them. You may seek the position, prepare for the examination, strengthen the organization, or accept public responsibility, while holding title and applause with an open hand. Detachment is not indifference to the outcome. It is the refusal to make the outcome your master. Return once more to the person receiving the promotion. The gratitude is genuine, the achievement is not denied, and the new authority is not treated with embarrassment. Yet the governing question has changed. It is no longer, who is beneath me now, but what has been placed in my care now? People, decisions, resources, standards, and consequences have drawn nearer. Success has not crowned the person, it has enlarged the field of faithfulness. This is ambition made mature. The readiness to become more capable because more good may be done, and more responsible because more has been entrusted. The final question is how this vision will govern the next ordinary act of work placed before you. Let the applause around those two promotions finally fall silent. The titles are identical, the congratulations equally warm, and the outward achievement equally real. Yet the decisive difference appears afterward, in whether gratitude replaces self-congratulation, whether responsibility receives more attention than rank, and whether other people are treated as neighbors to be served or as measurements against which importance must be defended. Success reveals its moral direction by the life it produces when no one is watching. Now identify one arena in which excellent work has quietly become a referendum on your worth. It may be the place where delay feels like humiliation, where another person's progress disturbs your peace, or where ordinary mistakes seem to announce something final about you. Name that arena honestly. The purpose is not to condemn ambition, but to rescue it from a burden it was never meant to carry. Work can reveal skill, discipline, judgment, and faithfulness. It cannot pronounce the value of a human soul. Then accept this practical challenge. Complete your next important task with care, even if recognition remains uncertain. Give truthful credit to whoever helped, without quietly reclaiming the center. And refuse one unnecessary comparison, the glance toward another person's position that contributes nothing to the quality, truth, or usefulness of what you are doing. These are modest actions, but mature ambition is formed precisely where ordinary choices cease serving pride. Mixed motives will appear. When they do, confess them without theatrical self-condemnation. There is no humility in making a spectacle of guilt. Admit the envy, vanity, fear, or hunger for distinction. Receive grace, and redirect attention toward the good now required. The aim is not to produce a flawless performance of modesty. It is to return, again and again, to grateful stewardship. Do excellent work. Welcome success without embarrassment. Accept responsibility with courage. But never demand that achievement tell you that you are more valuable than another person. Let this be your declaration in the comments. My work is a stewardship, not a verdict on my worth. Or state, in your own words, the truth about ambition you are choosing to live. If this teaching has helped you examine your work more honestly, subscribe for further reflections like this, and share it with someone pursuing success beneath the weight of comparison. Then, allow even this moment to pass. The applause is over. The next faithful task is before you. Do it well, receive its outcome gratefully, and let grace not achievement tell you who you are.